So, you may have heard that a new set is coming to Pokemon TCG Pocket and coming real soon. Well, I've done all the research I can, I think I have the details, and I want to tell you what we know about that new set, what we think we might know about that new set, and what I'm willing to venture as a guess about that new set. We're covering everything, so let's just get right into it. With what do we 100% guaranteed for sure know about this set? And the answer to that is surprisingly little. They've done a pretty good job keeping it under wraps. There are no big leaks this time. But one thing we do know is that they have posted that they are trying to get more booster packs out before the end of the year. And I don't know if you knew this, but we're in the middle of December, so the end of the year is coming right up. They don't have a lot of time. But we also have a data mine which claims that a mini set is coming in about a week. This is referred to in the files as set A1A. Now, does that mean anything to you? Not necessarily. But what if I told you that Genetic Apex in these same files was known as A1? Now, can we draw a lot from this? That's tough to say. I think things just need an internal file naming convention. That might just be what this is. It's also possible that this set is in some way a subset of Genetic Apex. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But we also have the date from this data mine, which, of course, all this data mine stuff is always subject to change. It's not 100% guaranteed, but the data mines have been pretty accurate so far, so I'm willing to trust this. And they claim that it's coming at reset between December 16 and 17, which I think is like a week and a few hours from right now when I post this. Now, there is one card that we know 100% confirmed to be coming, and I'm going to spoil that for you right now. Look away if you don't want to see it. Boom, there he is in all of his glory. Sorry I'm like this, I had to do it. Let's move on. So if there's so little that we actually know, what's the point of this video? Why did I make this presentation? A valid question, but I think the answer is pretty simple, and that's because it's fun to speculate and think about and talk about this, and because the ideas we talk about here might still be relevant for future sets, even if they're not going to be necessarily true of this next mini set that we're getting. There's really never going to be as good of a time to speculate as right now, because once we get our first new set, I think it's going to tell us a lot about what rolling out new content looks like in this game, what their philosophy is in terms of like design, adding mechanics, power creep, and all that. I think we're going to learn a lot in the next week, and once we do, we'll have different conversations to have, but right now we can have some very fun, very open-ended ones. I also think that they have left a few hints in the cards that are already in the game and sort of the choices they've made and the mechanics that exist. I think we can draw some conclusions from that that are very likely to be correct, perhaps not for this set, but certainly for some set coming up. And yes, if the Seadra card has caught your eye, that means exactly what you think it means, I guarantee it. But I think we can also make some pretty informed guesses, estimations perhaps, about what they're going to do based on other similar mobile games and even other Pokemon spin-offs. In Pokemon Unite, they have done certain things around this time of year that maybe we can connect. I'm sure that all of you Masters EX players also have some things to add. I don't know as much about that game, but I know it's made by the same developer, so perhaps there's something to be learned there too. Alright, so what for... How did that get there? That's not the next slide at all. That's my subscriber watch time graph. That bottom number is pretty low. It's too bad there's nothing you can do to help me with that. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing, which is what actually is a mini set? What could a mini set possibly look like? Because we have never gotten a mini set. We only have one set, and really, I mean, it's wild, wild west for this. Anything could happen. Even with new sets, we don't know they're going to look exactly like this one, but with a mini set, there's truly nothing we know. It is, I think, most likely going to be just an entirely new set with a different name and fewer cards than Genetic Apex, but be very similar to that. And I actually think that in the official post they made, they said they wanted to get more booster packs out by the end of the year. Now, I assume that post was translated from Japanese. I'm not trying to read too much into the exact word choice, but if they are in fact trying to add more booster packs before the end of the year, we might see something very much like Genetic Apex, but split into 3 boosters again, or maybe split into 2. But if it was 3, maybe there's half as many cards in each one. I think that'd actually be really nice. It'd be so much easier to target specific things. I assume, I haven't done the math, but it just feels like that'd be the case. That's sort of what I'm most expecting, and I'm personally expecting there to be like at least 70 to 100 cards in this. I've heard a lot of people thinking way less. I guess we'll find out. Now, another way this could go is just a continuation of Genetic Apex. We already have Charizard, Mewtwo, Pikachu packs. What if they add an Eevee pack? What if they add a Mew pack? Maybe both, maybe neither, I don't know. we don't know that that's not the way a mini set is going to work. I don't think it's super likely, but again, A1A would kind of make sense if it's just another piece of A1, right? I don't want to read too much into the file names, but the little information we have does suggest that this could be a potential angle. And if this is the case, I mean, we may be getting fewer cards than we expect, right? Because there are certain cards that appear in all of the genetic Apex boosters. I assume those would be back, so we wouldn't be getting 100% new cards in this. And even some of the ones that are exclusive to a single pack might also get tossed into this. We don't know how it's going to work. I personally don't mind getting fewer cards in this because that'll make it easier to get the ones that I need and keep on saving for the next major set, which I'm sure we will want a lot of cards of as soon as that drops. The other possibility, I think, is that this could be a limited time pack. It could be seasonal. If we look at a game like Pokemon Unite, there are always Christmas Santa outfits that come out for different Pokemon in December. And I think Pokemon Masters has done similar things with winter outfits for trainers and stuff. And the reason, I just know that in every gacha game I've ever played, and I've played a few, there's some proof of that on this channel, I know in every gacha game, and this is essentially a gacha game, when December comes and something new comes out, it's going to be limited time, it's going to be Christmas themed, and it's going to be often pretty broken to try and get people to spend money. However, I think that in this game it wouldn't be quite like that. I actually suspect that they would probably more focus on alternate art for cards that already exist, so that'd be functionally pretty much the same, maybe a few new things, but mostly not. Because I think if they dropped a set that was only going to be available for 1 month, there would be a huge backlash about it, that there was no warning, that people didn't really have any way to save or predict it. I think that a lot of the free-to-play players, which, as I understand, is most of the player base in most games like this, would just, I think there'd be a lot of really bad PR for the game, and they have no reason to do that. I also think that if they made a limited time set right now that didn't make people mad, kind of gets their foot in the door to try it in a way later that might be a little bit more anger-inducing. Now, I really hope this isn't the angle they're taking here. I would so much rather not have limited time packs. I like that they're kind of trying to run this more like a real trading card game than like a gacha game, even though there's some similarities to both. But I think that there's precedent for them doing seasonal things in other similar Pokemon mobile type games, so we have to at least consider the possibility, and I want to do my part to try and get people ready for that just in case it happens. Again, I think we're all praying it doesn't, even though the art probably be great. So that brings us to what cards should we expect in this next set? And obviously, there were 1,000 Pokemon. It's very difficult to make guesses, but I do think that we can make a few predictions that are pretty likely to be accurate, even if not right now, soon enough in the game. One of these things is that we might just get alternate arts of cards we already had. Just talked about this, there's not much more to say, but that does seem like an easy way to pad out a set and maybe make it a little easier on people who don't feel like they have as many things they need to collect at that point. Or people will just get dupes of what they already have and get mad. I don't know, sometimes you can't win as a developer here. Here's an example of something that might be that. A card we already have that could have new art that would be different for a reason at a time. I also know that there are some new mechanics they could introduce, like the most obvious ones are Confusion and Burn as status effects. These already exist in the paper trading card game, they've not been added to this game yet, and I don't think there's any reason to assume they won't eventually. I guess this is a simplified version of the game in a lot of ways, so maybe they don't want to have all the same status effects, but it seems to me like these are likely coming, and I think that there are some Pokemon that I'm going to predict that might fit these. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I also think that there could be some new support options, right? Because right now, there's not a whole lot in the way of like disruption. I guess Sabrina kind of counts and red card counts. But in terms of actually like discarding from your opponent's hand or something like that, I know Persian can do it. I don't know if I can name another card that does that. And I think I've seen one person ever playing Persian, so it almost doesn't exist. Retrieval, once stuff goes to the discard pile, it's pretty much done. There's not really anything you can do with it. All you can do by looking at the discard pile is like try and figure out which cards are still in your deck. Wouldn't be surprised if we see something to like, I don't know, maybe take a discarded energy back and put it on one of your Pokemon. That could definitely be a card that's coming, if not now, sometime. Or just in general, more energy manipulation. I know a lot of people are very inspired to Fury by Misty, and I totally understand why. Personally, I still don't know what to think of that card, but imagine something like if this Pokemon has more than 3 energy attached, discard energy until it has 3 energy attached. Like, that could be sort of a counterplay to some Misty strategies or something. Maybe not a great one, I don't know. There's a reason I'm not a designer, there's a reason I don't run my own card game. But I think, even going back to the earliest sets of the actual TCG, there were cards that did this sort of thing. There were things that let you get energy off your opponent's Pokemon, and I would not be surprised if that's coming very soon, because right now in the game there are a lot of things that feel sort of not that interactive, and I strongly suspect that these things are going to become much more interactive over time. Or not, again, we'll learn a lot about the philosophy of the game design here. But I think that there are more specific things we can guess about in terms of what cards there are to expect here. So, if we look at the current Pokédex, the cards that are currently in the game, there are some things missing. Like, we don't have a Steel-type EX Pokemon, we don't have a Dark-type EX Pokemon, and there's no Dragon-type EX Pokemon, and there actually is a Normal-type EX Pokemon. We have Wigglytuff, but there's only one, and I think the other elements all have at least 2, sometimes 3 or 4. I think Water has just a ton. And so I would very much bet on some of the new Pokemon in this set filling these roles, right? Like, I think a Dark-type EX is definitely needed because Mewtwo is such a menace. We want something to, like, make a meta stand against that. I think a strong Dark-type Pokemon is a great way to do that. And when I think about these things, it really would make sense to have a lot of Johto Pokemon in this set. Now, why is that? When you think about the theme of Genetic Apex, there isn't really one, except that it contains every Kanto Pokemon. All the original 151 are there. So it would kind of make sense for the second set to sort of pick up where that left off and try to get the next 100 Pokemon, the Johto Pokemon. I think there are exactly 100 of them. And, oh, would you look at that? 100, that's fewer. So it would make sense to have a smaller set, some sort of, I don't know, maybe we could call it a mini set. And when you think about what I just said about the EX Pokemon we're missing, Johto kind of makes a lot of sense. What if Tyranitar EX is our big Dark-type EX Pokemon? I would love that. I love Tyranitar. I think a lot of people do. It'd be very cool to see. Wouldn't mind Houndoom EX, too. That'd be pretty cool. And you know what? Normal type? What if we got Miltank EX? If you played Gold and Silver as a kid, you know all about Whitney and her nonsense. You know this Pokemon deserves the EX treatment. So that could really fill in some gaps and just make chronological sense and fit in with what they've shown us so far about their philosophy and design principles in terms of adding cards to the game. Again, we'll learn a lot more about that really soon. Could be totally off base, but it's something to think about. Oh, and the Seadra from before? Kingdra EX. How about that? Maybe. One of those could happen. And then, you know, like Scizor, Caesar, however you want to say it, Steelix. There are plenty of things that could come out here, and really all this could work together into a really cool set. I would love to see this personally. This would make me very happy. And then, alternatively, since it's a mini set, I think that there are other ways they could sort of theme it and make it feel cohesive. I don't know why I'm so attached to this theming idea. Again, I don't think Genetic Apex was really that themed, but imagine if, like, a baby Pokemon themed set. We got some cards in the game right now, like Snorlax, maybe Magmar, just feel a little bit clumsy to play. What if Munchlax and Magby were added to the game and just sort of helped solve that, sort of make that a little bit easier? It's possible. I know that baby Pokemon have been in the actual TCG and have run a few different ways. Sometimes they do evolve, sometimes they don't evolve. It can be a little bit of a mess. Maybe they will or won't want to introduce that, but it could be neat if they wanted to. It could be a way to, like, differentiate this a bit more from the regular trading card game. And I mean, imagine it's a baby-themed set, they add in Cleffa, who does something cool, and then also, why not toss in Clefable EX, you know? Could be a way to get more EX Pokemon based on these evolutionary lines. Maybe it even requires Cleffa being in the stack or something. There are interesting mechanics they could introduce there. Now, one more idea for a theme would be Gym Leaders Pokemon. There have been sets in the regular trading card game where you have Pokemon that are not just Arcanine, but it's Blaine's Arcanine, you know? It's Lance's Dragonite, it's a specific Pokemon, and I think that what would be cool about that, and adding that right now, is that they could take some of the Pokemon that are already really strong, like Arcanine and Dragonite, I guess there's some arguments about how strong those Pokemon are, but you know what I'm saying. And add alternate ways to play them, you know? Like, when you see a deck that is clearly ramping toward Dragonite, if there were 2 different Dragonites, maybe you had a Dragonite EX, 2, maybe 3 different Dragonites, you would have to sort of make different reads, play in a different defensive way around what's happening, try and shut down different things. It could be very cool. I suspect if they were going to do that, it would happen later. I don't think they want to double dip the Kanto stuff as much right now, but I think that eventually this might be something that comes up. But it's just an idea. And you know, there are so many other ways they could theme stuff like that. That was just a couple of ideas, like something like regional variants could be very cool. Rideable Pokemon, you know? We already have a few Laprases, so probably that's not happening right now, but it's just another idea. So anyway, that's basically my thoughts and predictions and sort of hopes for what the new set's going to be like. I hope something in here was helpful. I hope you had fun. If you're still watching, like, please press the subscribe button. It would do much for my life, and clearly you get something out of the exchange here. Maybe, I shouldn't speak for you. You do what you want, but that would mean a lot to me. Do you like any of these ideas? Do any of them sound accurate or perhaps potentially true? Or if not, what are your hopes? What are your predictions? What do you know that I don't that makes you better at this? And finally, if you have a super hot take about this game you want to just leave in the comments, I have a video I want to make and I need more hot take comments to do it, so please feel free, go crazy down there. The spicier the better. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Once again, thanks for being here, and I'll be back so soon with more fun, intriguing content for you. In fact, I am probably going to be streaming my win streak matches as soon as this uploads, so maybe see you there. If not, see you another time. Okay, till then.